everything we've just covered is the basic setup of the pump. There are some more advanced functions in the software of the pump that I'm now going to take you through. And when the pump stops running, this button here becomes a settings button, and it's this button that will take you into the setup menus. When we press it, we're given three options. We have custom settings, system information, and language. I'll start with the language button. By pressing that, you have an option of 10 different languages, so you can change the DYONICS 25 to work in any of 10 languages. When you've selected a new language, simply press the Done button. The system information tells you about the product and the version of the software in it. And in the custom settings menu, this is where you really get some of the advanced features and setups in the pump. So in the pressure menu, what we have are the default settings for each of the three types of cannulas: the low flow, medium flow, and high flow. So if you have a doctor that wants to do shoulder surgery at 80 millimeters of mercury, and he has a high flow cannula for the high flow, you can increment that up to 80. And when he has a medium flow cannula, say doing knees, he wants a pressure of 40, you can bring that down to 40 and press the set button, and that stores those values in the memory. And the flow rate limit, this limits the maximum amount of flow that the pump will deliver at any of the different cannula settings. The defaults are for a high flow cannula, 2.5 litres a minute. For the medium flow is 1.6. And the low flow cannula, the limit is 0.5 litre a minute. And the lowest these will go down to is for both the high flow and the medium flow cannula is 0.5 litre a minute. And with the low flow cannula, it will go down to 0.3. So this sets the maximum limit that the pump will flow at. It doesn't set the amount of fluid that it pumps at any point in time, just the amount of fluid the pump's allowed to deliver, depending on how much outflow is happening from the joint. And you can take any and all of these numbers back to the factory settings by setting this Restore Default button at the bottom. Again, if you make any changes here, press the Set button to take you back to the next menu screen. The suction and blade speed options allow you to control the outflow from the pump. Now, to use this, you have to have outflow tubing, either single or forked outflow. And in this screen, you're really getting some of the benefits of the pump and its ability to talk with the shaver box. And what you can do here is set the outflow limits depending on whether the pump detects the shaver being on or off, or if the pump and the shaver aren't connected together. And what you're setting with these numbers is the amount of outflow that the pump is doing in each of these conditions. So if you have a shaver connected to the pump and you want a decent amount of outflow to be happening, any setting above about 30 or 40% open will give you good flow with the shaver on. And with the shaver off, what you're trying to achieve is a fairly low level of turnover of fluid in the joint. So setting around about 10 or 20% is a good number there. These buttons down the left-hand side relate to blade families. The high speed setting is for burrs. The medium speed relates to most of our blades. And the low setting is really for small joint blades. And you can set each of these shaver on, shaver off, and shaver not detected settings for each family of blade. And by setting them differently, you add a lot more functionality to the pump. Again, when you've made the changings here, if you press the Set button, it takes you back up the step to this main menu screen. In the cannula menu, this sets the default type of cannula that the pump will recognise when it's turned on. The factory default is high flow, but you can change that to medium or low flow depending on what type of cannula your surgeon most often uses. And again, when you've made your changes, press the Set button to take you back up to the next menu. And something you'll notice when you get back to this level is you have this Select Default mode and in Custom mode toggle. By pressing this button, it toggles the pump between in custom mode and in the default mode. So if you've made any changes to any of the settings that you want the pump to recognise, make sure that this button is pressed so that the message here says in custom mode, and in that way the pump will recognise any of those changes you've made whenever you turn it on. And when you've done that, if you press the done button, it takes you back up through the menu till you get to the main screen. And now every time you turn on the DYONICS 25, it will default to those settings that you've made.